Good evening, everyone. It's Richard here, and welcome to tonight's edition. And tonight we're going to be talking about how to create a brand that you love. And I'm really excited tonight because with us tonight we've got Ben Reynolds, and I've known Ben for quite some time now. Ben's been working with me for a couple of years on my businesses and helping me create great brands. And now he's actually part of our team where we're working with our clients, helping them improve their branding, come up with great business names, and develop fantastic websites for people. So let's bring Ben into the room. Hi, Ben. Really,
Good evening.
really pleased to be speaking to you tonight. Welcome, and thanks very much for agreeing to come on.
You're welcome.
So, Ben, first of all, please just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in marketing and creating brands and business names for people.
So I started my career out in working in advertising. I worked for Saatchi & Saatchi and then moved on to some other bigger agencies. I did that for about 15 years before setting up my own business. During that 15 years, I spent a lot of time working with brands, helping create brands, understanding how they're put together, what they mean, and the communications around them. I then set up my own business, and I used Westminster Reference Library to research my business. So despite what most people think, advertising is actually all based on hard research. It's not all fluff.
Yeah.
And so I was very used to researching everything. So it was no different when it came to my own business. So after some time, the manager came over from the library and she said, "You're in here ever such a lot. Do you mind me asking what you're doing?" And I said, I'm just researching my business. I'm looking at product trends, customer trends, and that kind of stuff. And she said, "Well, there's thousands of businesses here in Westminster. You're the only one that seems to come in regularly, though." And she said, "Would you mind doing a presentation for us? We have lots of people that are startups coming in. Would you do a presentation on how to use research for business purposes for startups?" So I said, "Of course, yeah, I'm happy to give back. You've been very helpful over the years." So I did a presentation. It was quite well attended. There was about 50 people there. And at the end of it, they formed a big queue and they all wanted to talk to me about their business ideas and about how they were building their business plans and about branding and about the names of their companies and their all different ideas. So the manager there suggested I did another session, one that was specifically helping startups and not just talking about research, about how to get a business idea off the ground.
Yeah.
So I did that. I run lots of workshops for them and presentations, and it became a very regular thing. And it culminated in me being given a title, which was the Ambassador for Entrepreneurship for the City of Westminster, which is
a bit of a mouthful.
It is a big mouthful, yeah. It's really just a made-up title, though. I was invited to open a new business library, and they wanted to give me a title so that they could put it in the local press.
Yeah.
So at that stage, I mean, I was really talking to small business owners on a weekly basis for about 5 years. And when I eventually sold my company, I wanted to work more with small companies and startups in particular. So I set up an agency, MC2, and we did branding, naming, and the beginnings of marketing plans for new businesses.
Right.
That was very successful, and I've been working with small businesses ever since. Most recently with Richard. And what I do is I help them put together a brand. I help them name the company, come up with a strap line, and sometimes a bit more communications around it as well. So we've got the slide up here already, the first one. Why is branding important? Particularly this is for small businesses. The first thing I would say is that the images there are of logos, company logos. That's a logo, not a brand. So a brand is actually what people think about your company. It's not just an icon. It goes a bit more than that. So why should you brand? First of all, it makes you look really professional. So if you have put some money and time and effort into your brand and it looks slick, then your customers or potential customers will think you're in it for the long run. You're not a fly-by-night company. You're investing in the company. You want it to be professional, and it gives them an idea of what to expect from you.
Yeah.
Ideally, it should help explain what you do as well, particularly for startups. So when you first start a company, most people are not interested in what you do, and they don't want to spend a lot of time finding out about you because you're just another company. So if your name and the strapline and your branding gives an indication of what you do, people are much more likely to engage with you. It can also help consumers understand where you sit in the market. So if you're a fun company or a serious company, or if you're premium or cheap or fast, whatever it might be, your branding can convey some of those USPs. And it also creates trust. So the more times people see you, the more familiar they are with you, the more likely they are to trust you as an organization. This is important really in the next point as well. Having a brand is really important when you're doing marketing, because it means you're recognizable. So for most startups, most of your marketing probably is going to be online, and you'll do multiple messages. So if people see an advert once, they're not going to engage with it. It's very unlikely. If they've seen it 3, 4, 5 times, they're much more likely to click on a link or find out more.
Sure.
If you're not branded, though, they won't know that those 5 messages are all from the same person. So having a brand is just like a little badge to say it's me again, and people become more familiar with you, and they're more likely then to interact. And the last one is it helps increase repeat custom. So if somebody's had a good experience of you and you're branded, they'll go back to that brand because they'll remember who you are. If you're not branded, if you're just, Joe Blogs, then people are much less likely to come back.
Yeah. So I'm getting a bit carried away with the slides there, Ben.
That's okay. No, that's okay. So when people ask me about naming their company, this is something that people are very, very passionate about, the name of their own company. And I talk to them about what we call the brand spectrum. So there's a whole spectrum of different types of names. On the left there, they go from very abstract names, and on the right, they're very, very descriptive. So on the left there, we've got Kodak. Kodak is a made-up word, which means that it's very easy to protect legally, to have trademarks on it because you've made the word up yourself. However, it doesn't say what you do. So you've got to spend a lot of time and money explaining what your company does to people before they understand what you do. On the other end of the scale, I've used shredded wheat as an example. Shredded wheat is a product description, so it's very difficult to protect legally. It's very hard to get a trademark on such a descriptive word. The benefit, though, is everybody knows what it is. It's wheat that's been shredded, so it's dead straightforward. But anybody could copy that name, so I wouldn't recommend that for a startup, because if you do have some success, somebody will just steal your name.
Sure.
So what we try to do is find names that are in the middle somewhere, and the two I've picked is Motorola and Microsoft. So these hint at what the company does. It's not an explanation, but Microsoft is software for microcomputers. So I'm getting an idea of what they do just in their name before I know anything else about them. And I've included Motorola because I like the backstory, basically. It doesn't explain what they do now, but it explains what they did when they were a startup. They're an American company that started in the 1950s, and they made radios for cars. Motorola is rock and roller for your motor.
Oh, wow, I like it.
It's a good brand. It's a good name. I like that one a lot. The company's moved on now, but the story's still there. So I do appreciate that one.
And you were telling me previously, Ben, about the brand name Lexus. Do you want to just tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Lexus was the original brief from Toyota to design a range of luxury executive cars for the US, and the brief Lexus luxury executive cars for the US. Yeah, there's a few brands like that the consumer wouldn't know what that means, but they come about like that. The other car one is MR2, the Toyota MR2, mid-engined rear-wheel drive 2-seater. That was the brief. Yeah, that was the brief for the car when they designed it.
We're getting into cars now. You can see what my other passion is.
Yeah, I do like cars. So most of the people we work with are startups. So I've got 2 examples on the left of startups. And as the brand grows, the messaging and the branding changes over time. So when you start up, you really want to be like these modern companies here, explain what you do, because that's the most important thing. Then you go into a growth phase where people know what you are, so you don't need to explain it so much. And then when you've got to dominance, you don't need to even say who you are. So the two on the left here, the two startups, the first one is called Spoon Date. So that gives me an idea. It's probably something to do with dating and probably something to do with food. And then under that, the strap line says a delicious way to meet. So that's quite clear from that this is a website or an app or something where you do online dating and arrange to go for dinner. So that's a good example of a startup explaining what they do. The one below it is Paymax. So Paymax, that's something to do with payments, maximizing payments. And then under that, it says lottery going mobile. So from that, I can guess that's an app that you play the lottery on, and it maximizes your winnings. So both of those are good examples of companies that have named themselves to explain what they do. It works very well. It's a good shortcut to explain what you do. As you then go into the next phase of brand and you're looking for growth, people are familiar with your name and what you do. So you just want them to remember it. So then you move to a stage where you're just promoting your name. So the two examples I've given here are Zipcar, which is an hourly rental car in urban areas. They're now well recognized in those areas, and they have enough brand recognition that they don't need to explain what they do all the time. So their strap line has got very small now. You can't really even read it on the screen, and because they're not interested in telling people what they do anymore, because everyone knows. I would guess in a year or two they'll probably remove the strap line altogether.
Right.
The other example is Moonpig. Their name doesn't explain what they do, so they spent years explaining what the company did. They're a web to print company, so they do greeting cards where you upload your own photos that you put on the front of the card. Now they've explained that and they've got enough traction, they just want people to remember the name, so they use TV advertising campaign, and they use a jingle. So they've made moonpig.com. They don't explain what they're doing anymore, they just want you to remember the name. Go Compare with another example of that. When you get to world domination, which hopefully all of us will, you don't need to tell people even your name. So the two examples there, Nike and McDonald's, it doesn't actually say their name. It doesn't say what they do, because everybody knows already. All it does is give you an emotional message. So Just Do It is about getting out there, being your best, self-actualizing, and being a winner. It's quite simple. It's a very emotional message. And the McDonald's one, I'm loving it. That's really giving you an emotional excuse to buy McDonald's. So you know it's not that healthy, probably shouldn't eat it regularly, but you know what? I love it. So that's a very emotional message. It works very well. I do like to quote Albert Einstein. If you can explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So before I can come up with a name and a strapline, I need to really understand what your business is about. So regularly people come to me and they say, this is my business, this is what I'm doing. And I say, I don't understand, what do you mean? And they say, blah, 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 blah. And I say, so what, I don't know, what do you actually do? And they say, blah, 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 blah. And I go, so you mean, do you do this? And they go, no, that's not what I do. What I do is, and they haven't got the story straight in their own head. So and until they can distill it in their own head and explain it simply, it's very difficult for me to come up with a name or a brand for them. So a big part of what I do is distill lots of information that people throw at me and get it down to the crux of what they're actually talking about. So I would say to anybody that's in the startup phase, you need to understand your business well enough that you can explain it to your friend in the pub or to your gran. If you can explain it simply to them, then you've nailed it. If you can't explain it simply to them, then you really need to think about exactly what you're doing. And that would be advice I would give to almost everybody. The other thing that lots of people ask me about is colors. So I've given an example of a color which has a meaning, and then I'll go on to give an example of a product category where a whole industry has settled on a color scheme to differentiate between different products. So blue is the example I've picked. Blue is the color of authority. So it's the color of a policeman's uniform, and it's color of the big important organizations in the world. So Oxford University, the Conservatives, NHS, Metropolitan Police, United Nations, World World Health Organization, are all blue. And that's deliberate. That's very deliberate. They've picked those colors. Other industries and other sectors do use different colors. I know we were working on one of your brands recently, Richard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Smart Hospitality Solutions, and there we use the color green because. So, can you remind me why we went with green?
We did, yes. The brand is a company that is a cool service for the hospitality industry, and green is the color of friendliness. So it implies that you'll get a friendly service, which is what you would want from that kind of organization. So there was a good reason to pick green. They're not random as some people would expect. The other example I'll give is where an entire industry has used color schemes to differentiate its products. And the supermarket industry has settled on white for describing the basic or value range of food in its stores. So on that slide there, we've got Tesco's, Morrison's, Waitrose, Asda, Nissa Local, and Sainsbury's. All of them are using the same white for their basic range. And as a consumer, you might not have realised that. No. It might not. If somebody asked you, you wouldn't necessarily say, "Oh yes, value food is white," but when you see it in the supermarket, your subconscious recognises it.
Yeah, yeah.
So then the next level up on the next slide is so one up from your basic foodstuffs is mainstream, maybe slightly premium, and they tend to use grey or silver grey in their packaging. And again, most people wouldn't recognise that, but you do subconsciously, you know it when you're in the supermarket. Then if we go up another sector to premium on the next slide, dark grey is the premium colour for foods. So this has been so successful that delis and gastropubs have started painting the outside of their premises dark grey, particularly matte dark grey, as the general public now know that signifies premium food. So that colour scheme has actually jumped industry into another sector because it's been so well recognised. And then on the next slide, if we look at ultra premium, that tends to be black. So ultra premium doesn't have to be champagne. It just needs to be the premium within its sector. So even just crisps and ice cream have black versions. And the companies do this because there are people that want the very, very best and they don't mind paying for it. So they're able to offer a product which is better, but they can charge a lot more for it. So the profit margins are much higher on these type of products. So premium products for supermarkets is a very profitable area. The other thing people often ask me about is logos. So if we go on to the next slide, we'll have a look at some of the logo types. There's 6 main logo types. No one type is correct. They serve different purposes. Image logos, the first one there at the top. Those are particularly useful for tech companies because online you can have your little Twitter logo very, very small on a screen and it's still recognizable. So for tech companies, they work really well. The next one down is abstract logos. Abstract logos are difficult because it doesn't say anything about the company or what it does. It's just like a badge. So that tends to come along when a brand has been a bit more established and people know who they are. Then they'll start using an abstract design like the Microsoft one. The Microsoft one is supposed to represent a window. That's the cross thing in it. It's Microsoft Windows.
Yeah, got it.
But it's not obvious, not at all.
No, it looks more like a flag to me.
It does, yeah, it does. It looks much more like a flag. The next ones are mascot logos. These are particularly useful for FMCG category, so fast-moving consumer goods, stuff people buy regularly. They're very useful if you're doing TV advertising because you can take the Pillsbury Doughboy and animate it, and you can have it in press ads and all kinds of stuff. So for the type of companies we deal with, startups, that's not really suitable for them, to be honest. The 3 on the right are the examples that we're more likely to work with. So the first one is a wordmark logo. That's simply the company's name using a specific font and color scheme, and they just stick with it all the time, and you get good color, you get good brand recognition from it over time. The second one is lettermark logos. So these are logos where they have created a specific typeface. So it's not a standard typeface. They've created their own one. and that gives them some uniqueness. So the IKEA logo, nobody else uses that logo. That's one they've created themselves. And the same for CNN, and the same for FedEx. The FedEx logo actually, the white space between the capital E and the X actually forms an arrow, and that is to show that they move things from one place to another. And most people don't notice it, but when you do notice it, it's very obvious.
Yeah, that's right. Depending on how you look at it, that's right. Focus on it, and now you point it out. Absolutely, yeah, I get that, but I've never noticed it before.
No, you wouldn't. You've probably never seen the bear in the Toblerone logo either.
No, probably haven't.
So I don't have an example here. Toblerone, their logo is the mountain, which is the region in Switzerland where they're based.
Right.
And their flag has their regional flag has a bear on it, and that bear is hidden in the mountain. Next time you have a Toblerone, have a look for it, and you'll see there's a bear on the side of the mountain.
Definitely, I will definitely do that. Although I am meant to be laying off Toblerones, Ben.
Just look it up online. You don't need to buy it. The last one are emblems. These don't get used so much anymore, but they tend to be for more upmarket brands. So Starbucks is mainstream now, but when it launched, it was the premium coffee shop. So they produced an emblem to display that. And the next one example is Stella, still the premium lager, reassuringly expensive, as they used to say. And they've used it to show that it's an upmarket brand, and they use it on the glasses and stuff. They're a very good brand. So they're always trying to convince people to spend more money on Stella. So they went through reassuringly expensive, and then they launched Cidre instead of cider and charged a premium for that. And then they said, how can we squeeze more money out of the consumers? And they said, oh no, let's put it in a fancy glass. So they did those big goblets, and people for some reason don't mind paying £6 for a lager.
Incredible.
No.
We'll talk about.
Go on, Richard. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was just going to explain. This is a job that we've recently done, isn't it, Ben? Together. So this is for a good client of mine. She's already got a VA from us working within her business, and she's been around for 20 years as First Choice Interiors. Providing curtains and blinds and soft furnishings for people, and this was her website that she was working with, First Choice Interiors, and she wasn't happy with it. You know, the business had progressed, and she really felt that the brand wasn't right, and she came and she said, can we bring it up to date and actually create for her a new name and a new brand that really did sort of tell people what the business was about. So yeah, this was we went from this to this. So Ben, do you want to just tell us a little bit about this process?
If we could go back to the previous slide, we'll start there.
Right, certainly.
So when we first met with First Choice Interiors, I had a look at their website. It says First Choice Interiors, and then service gallery about contact home. So I'm still not sure what they do yet. At the moment, it's just interiors. Then it says passionate, and there's a message about their service. And then it says first for fine fabric and furnishing solutions. So I would assume this company sold fabric and probably furniture as well. But when we actually met with the client, that's not quite what they do. They actually are a curtains and soft fabric bespoke, what do you call it, studio. And they design for interior designers and for hotels and sometimes also private residences. So if you want to pull up the website, Richard.
Yeah, sure.
So the first thing I did was I suggested that the name perhaps wasn't right. First Choice is the name of a holiday company here. And it doesn't necessarily say interiors. And I wanted to get the idea that this was more of a bespoke and designer range, because the product is very upmarket and it goes into 5-star hotels and into very wealthy homes. So most designers, their brands are the owner's name. So like a Gucci or Louis Vuitton is the actual designer's name. So I suggested that we changed the name from First Choice to Garland Interiors, as the owner is Mary Garland. It's easy to say, it rolls off the tongue. And because it's an upmarket brand, we created the logo in the corner there, which is a G with a laurel around it. So that's an example of one of the types of logo that we talked about just now. So like the Stella Artois one, that's the type of logo that looks upmarket. So before you know anything about the company, you've got an impression that it's going to be an upmarket quality product. So then we lead with the message, welcome to the world of Garland. At Garland, we offer design, making up and fitting of bespoke curtains, blinds and soft furnishings. So that's it, nailed it. I know exactly what this company does. And then there's a picture in the background of quite an expensive looking room. So they're not just making up regular curtains, they're doing posh stuff. So we managed to get all of that just on that first page of the website. And then we split it up into different sections. So the company actually really supplies to 3 distinct areas. They do interior designers. They also supply hotels and some commercial properties. And lastly, private residences, so people doing up their own homes. When you only have a few customer types like that, it's very easy to split up your website or your communications and tailor it around those different audiences. So by having a section for interior designers, when they're on there, they'll feel like this is the right company for them because they work with people like me. When you're on the hotel section, the hoteliers will think this is the right supplier for me because they already work with hotels. We then did some simple messaging, a bit of background about the company. The company very much revolves around the owner, Mary Garland, so we've got an image of her as well. And as a client, you will definitely be meeting Mary. And then we explain who we work with. So that's a very small amount of text, just explaining who we work with and how for the different groups. So for the interior designers, hotels and private residences. So the website's very straightforward. There's lots of imagery. We've picked upmarket colors for dark blue and gold. And so the whole feel of the website is completely different. And Richard, have you had any feedback from the client about the website so far?
Yeah, she loves it. She really does love it. She's very, very pleased. And she's it's really making the numbers as well. People are going to it. She's using it well. She's using it in her own marketing, driving people to the website. And the phone's ringing, so it's really working well for her.
I mean, that is what marketing and branding really is about. It's getting the phone ringing, getting the customers in.
Yeah. Great. No, that's really useful, Ben. Thank you very much indeed for that.
You're welcome.
So right, well, I'm just going to check to see if we've got any questions at all that have come in. No, we haven't, so that's fine. So Ben, I can't thank you enough for spending that time chatting and telling us, giving us those great insights into branding, the importance of branding, and how to use your brand to get your message across. That I've learned a lot tonight. So it's been really, really good, and it's been fantastic working with you as well, and having you now as part of the team, so we can offer this branding service together with creating the websites, great websites for people. So if anybody would like to find out more about what we may be able to do for you, please do scan the QR code on the left, and that will take you to the Vum website. There's lots of information and content on there. There's also a downloadable guide on there about how to recruit a virtual assistant and work with a virtual assistant. So please do download that free guide. If you'd like to find out any more about what we've been talking about tonight, then please do just you can book a Zoom call with me by scanning the QR code there on the right of the screen. If you found this useful, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if there's anybody you know at all that you think this may be of use to, then please do share this with them, and click the bell on the top right hand corner, the notifications bell, and then you'll get notified when I'm doing another YouTube live. They are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about on Monday yet, but I'm sure it'll be great. So I'll probably let you know on Facebook on that one. So thanks again, Ben, for tonight. It's been really good. And I look forward to seeing you later, Ben, and everybody else on Monday. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.